my channel. I am here to share my knowledge with you. If you are completely new to the programming language, so learning the SQL or PL SQL is the best thing. Okay, so why I am saying is so it is easier than you think. Okay, so because it is mainly dependent upon the syntaxes. Okay, so once you learn more about the syntaxes, which is for simple English, so you will be quickly able to grasp it. Okay, so SQL is nothing but it will tell the computer what we need to do. So that basically we will um, write it in a code blocks. Okay, so it will follow some structural languages. Okay, mainly it will be consisting of uh, tell about you the basics of SQL and what is SQL. Okay, so basically SQL is the structured query language where we will use this language for the managing or to interact with the relational databases. Okay, so we will be having a different types of the databases. So one is the relational database and the other one is a non-relational databases. So in relational databases, data will be stored in the form of the tables. Okay. So in non-relational databases, data will be stored in the form of the documents. Okay. Form of the documents or else pictures uh, uh, and all will be stored in the same documents format only. So there are different types of the databases in market. So when coming to the relational databases, it's a Oracle, which will stand in the first position. And apart from this, MySQL, IBM DB2, and Teradata will be most useful databases among relational databases. So when coming to these non-relational databases, MongoDB is the most famous one. So after this, Redis and Cassandra will be used. Okay. So why we are using this SQL language? What is the use of this SQL language? So basically, it will this language SQL will allow us to perform the CRUD operations. So basically, in a software life cycle, we will be mostly hearing about this part CRUD operations. Okay, so what these CRUD operations will be is, so it will be nothing but a create, read, update, or delete the data which is stored in the database. Okay, so create is nothing but creating a new objects in the database. Uh, New objects in the database. What is meant by reading? Reading is nothing but a data retrieving. Once we have stored some particular sort of the data in the database, we need to retrieve the data. We need to see the data, how the data is present in the database. So for reading this data, we will be using these read operations. We will be using this SQL. There will be some syntaxes like select class. We will be using we will use this select class to read the data from the database. Okay, so apart from this update, if suppose some data is stored in the database, we need to update that particular record. Okay, so we will use these updates, delete, there will be delete operations also we need to perform on the database. So this SQL language will allow us to perform all these operations on the data what is we have stored. Okay, so we are saying about the data. What is the data? Okay, data is nothing but the collection of the raw facts. Okay, suppose my name is Ramu. Uh, I am getting a salary around 1,000 per day. Okay, so I will mention this as a irrelevant data. Okay, so data is nothing but it is a raw data. Okay, so once this raw data is collected, and if we have a given a proper naming convention, anybody I know. My name is Ramu. So I mentioned this as a Ramu. So the new person, whoever is entering into the database, so he will not be able to judge that data, right? So maybe it is a name, maybe it is a some character, or it is a some state related names like that he will think. So by giving a proper naming convention, name and salary, so it is a proper information collection. So once we have collected this meaningful data and processed that meaningful data and stored in it in the database, then it will be called as a database. Here we will call these as a columns. Okay. So whatever the data we are storing it as, we will call it as a rows. So this is a relational database model. Okay, so we are having a columns and rows. We will basically store the data in the form of the tables, right? In the starting of the session, I have said. So this is called the relational database. Okay, how this SQL was developed? So once there was a uh, some research operations that has been basically SQL was introduced by these three inventors. Okay, so Cod, Chamberlain, and Uh, Boise. Okay, so they have performed these inventions for the aspiration to sell this particular relational software to this US Navy. Okay, so after this relational software, Oracle has made some implementations to this relational software, and they have commercially introduced this in 1979. Okay, so after that there are different versions that came up, but the sixth version, which was majorly released on 1988, was a blast. Okay, so which is having a uh, procedural constructs option like if then else if conditions or exceptional handling cases, and all will be introduced in this 1988. Okay, so how this SQL will work? Okay, so basically in SQL, this is nothing but a database which is residing at a client location. So if we are connecting to the server that is present, not present within our system. Okay, means the database that is not present in our own computer, that is called a client database. Okay, so if it is present within our own system, okay, so that is called a local server. Okay, client server and local server, these are the two differences. So whenever if we want to retrieve the database data from the client server, okay, so basically this is our local PC. Okay, so whenever we have typed any query like select a star from the particular table, okay, so Oracle will fire this query. Okay, so once this query is fired, automatically it will go to the Oracle engine, and Oracle engine will checks the execution plan. So there are here this Oracle engine will perform basically two three operations like it will check like parsing. Okay, and also binding. Okay, so apart from this, optimizer will work after this. Okay, so what these three will do is, so parsing will check the syntax. Okay, so whether the syntax is correct or not. Okay, so after parsing is done, okay, so binding, what is binding? So binding is nothing but query semantics, like all the queries are in a correct place, whether it is going up to the joins or not, like that it will check. So basically optimizer is nothing but, so it will generate the execution plan before saving the data into the database. So it will check for the good execution plan to get the output very fastly. Okay, so this optimizer will work. So whenever we have fired the query from our local PC, so Oracle engine will tell that this query, Oracle engine will read this query, and it will optimizer will work on the background. So optimizer will check what is the query that is fired, and it will go to the execution plan. Once the execution plan is good, so it will pull up the data, okay, from the database, and it will show up as in the console, whatever that is present in our local PC. Okay, so why we need to use the SQL? Okay, So because it is having the higher flexibility, okay. So it allows us to suppose I have created 2 to 3 tables. Okay. So if I need to add some new columns or something to the particular table, so I does not need to stop the business. Okay. So I does not need to stop the business. I can add that column to that particular table. Okay. So that is the main flexibility that is present. Okay. Minimum redundancy. Like whenever we are taking any raw data, right? So this raw data will be consisting of a multiple duplicated data like that. So by using the normalization, SQL will be having a normalization process. We will discuss that in the later point of time. Okay. So by using the normalization techniques, redundancy will be decreased. Okay. So after this redundancy, so data integrity. So before inserting data into database, this SQL will check whether any particular constraints that is applied by the user, like a unique constraint. Suppose I want a one column data to be unique. So before inserting any data into a particular column, so user will think like this column should be consisting of only unique data, like that. So he will apply unique key constraint on top of that particular table column. So that before entering the data and storing the data into the database, user will create some constraint. So that constraint mechanism is present in the SQL. Okay. Data security. Okay. So suppose I have created and stored some data. I want this data not to be exposed to the other users. Okay. Uh, so I am the sole owner of this particular table. Okay. So I will means the other users will not be able to see the data, right? So that particular mechanism is available in SQL, like granting. Suppose if I have given a grant permission to the particular user, then only he will be able to see the data, whatever I have stored in the database. Scalability. Like suppose my organization is storing the data up to 50 tables. Suppose I need a 50 tables. So I will create the schema up to like 2 GB like that. Okay. Suppose my organization is very low and I need my business data within a 5 tables like that. So I can also be able to store the data and also create a schema for the 5 tables also. This is nothing but a scalability. And what about the portability? Portability is nothing but once I have written a code in my PC, okay, so this is my local machine, okay, so I need to execute the same query in the client side environment, okay. So the query need not to be modified, okay. So it does not need to be modified. The same query will be executed anywhere. Okay, if you write a query and if you are executing the same query in Oracle database, it will work as expected. Suppose this select star from EMP, it will give me some 50 rows. The same 50 rows needs to be derived from the client side environment. So this is the reasons that why we use the SQL. So these are the main advantages of this SQL. Okay, so after this topic, we will discuss about this mostly about the relational databases and database management systems. To on the next topic, we will cover about this one. Thank you, friends.